We live in an in-between time between what has happened and what might happen next, between what we knew is normal and what will become the new normal. Make no mistake about it, life will not 100% return to the way things were. Why is that? In a sermon at Old South Church in Boston, Reverend Donald Wells says that it can't because, quote, we have experienced too much. We have borne much grief and sadness. We have expressed anger at the mismanagement of the crisis. We have celebrated those on the front lines of care who risked their lives to help others. We have discovered new dimensions of what community means. The list goes on. We have learned more about solitude, of celebrating simple pleasures, the yearning for more human connectedness, the plight of the unhoused with no safe place to go, of immigrant families with no space to do social distancing, much less wear a mask or seek medical help should the virus strike, of long lines of people waiting for food to feed their families, of millions without work and the rent is due, about the vast inequality between the top executives and those who work for a weekly paycheck. How can we just sit back and wonder how things will go back to normal, having experienced all of this? Well, we can't. Our church has something in common with the disciples sitting around that room, scratching their heads 2 millennia ago. Life as they knew it had changed, and things would never go back to the way things were. For 3 years, they had accompanied Jesus from place to place. They listened when he taught the crowds, and they spent time with Jesus out of the public eye. In retrospect, Holy Week must have been a blur for them. Jesus riding the donkey, Jesus kicking the money changers out of the temple and angering the powerful, sitting through a gloomy Passover Seder in the upper room, Judas disappearing, praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, soldiers arriving with swords and torches, hauling Jesus away to his death. Then, miracle of miracles, Jesus appears to them very much alive and yet very much changed. He showed up here and there for 40 days and then he left again. Only this time, he wasn't coming back. They had been sitting around in Jerusalem for 10 days, staring at the floor, getting on each other's nerves. They had no plans. Jesus had given them a farewell speech of sorts, but no specifics on how to accomplish the things he described. The disciples had thought the new norm was Jesus popping in every now and then. But that new norm was shattered when Jesus disappeared for good. Everything was up in the air. They had no clue what they should do. Was this the new normal? They had no reason to assume otherwise. Until what's called Pentecost happened. The scriptures describe wind and fire and the ability to speak and understand languages they did not know. I wonder what it was like. A whoosh sounding like a freight train. Pyrotechnics all around. Surely they felt scared out of their wits and filled with joy all at the same time. And they were never the same again. Their ultimate norm. They hit the streets with the passion of the prophets, telling everyone they met about this Jesus guy who embodied God. They spent the rest of their lives stunned and empowered because of that singular defining moment, their own personal big bang. Like the disciples, we can be scared and filled with joy all at the same time. We can become empowered. We can break out of our ruts. Our church has changed because of the pandemic. We don't know when we'll be back here in our building, and even then it will start as a trickle, a small group of people who will be sitting far apart. We hope to be live streaming by then when our building reopens, so you can participate at home in your pajamas, watching the service in real time. Other things can't be planned. Some questions linger. Will everyone come back to church once the pandemic is gone? Probably not. How can we continue to reach out to people in non-traditional ways? How can we stay connected as a church family? The questions aren't, will we? They're, how will we? Virtual church is here to stay. We'll adapt to this new reality. We have become a church without walls, and that is here to stay. We've always said that we're the church, whether we're in our building or not. Eventually, we'll be both, a brick and mortar congregation and a robust church family online. Through email, Zoom, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and whatever innovation might be coming next in the digital world, we'll continue to stay connected with all of you, including members who have moved out of state and are once again enjoying our services online. We will be more connected than ever, and that will be a good thing. Another thing that won't change is our commitment to living out our simple credo. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. The Pentecost story is one of radical inclusion. When the wind died down and the tongues of fire disappeared, a more significant miracle occurred. The disciples' ability to speak languages they had never been taught, so that they could connect with every last person in Jerusalem. I believe this is God saying from the very inception of the church that we are meant to include everyone, include one another, listen to one another, try and understand one another, no division, which means that we can never keep silent in the face of injustice. We are called to speak out. We are called to follow Christ. We are called to nonviolence as embodied by Dr. King. This week, our church sign out by the side of the road says, "Racism kills. Choose love." We are living through an epidemic of unarmed black men being killed by armed white men, of people using their whiteness as a weapon to threaten people of color in public parks, gyms, even Starbucks a few months back. We are seeing with our own two eyes acts of hatred and violence that have long existed, but now are being filmed with cell phones. We cannot remain silent. We are called to speak the language of Pentecost, the language of God's radical love. And so I will conclude with this Pentecost prayer written by Walter Brueggemann. Holy wind that dismantles what was, holy wind that evokes what is to be, holy wind that overrides barriers and causes communication. Holy wind that signals God's rule even among us. Amen.